Gon' kick it off then. Whoa. Gon' kick it off then. It ain't a game, kick it off then. Whoa. So gon' kick it off then. What we talking about, it goes deep. Something to watch, even from the nosebleeds. The fans been waiting, anticipating for the whole week. Cause we making moves and breaking news, no time for cold feet. Don't confuse, you know the rules and that we play to win. You ain't prepared to take it, then I let the games begin. A man's world, but the ladies gon' be taking it. Not a trophy or an arm piece, unless we talking Lombardi. What's up?
2 weeks left in the regular season. How your team gonna act? Congratulations to Drew Brees on breaking another one of Peyton Manning's records. The roller coaster Brett Favre-esque like season continues for Jameis Winston. The Bills have found their destiny child and landed back in the playoffs. Another change with the number one seed in the NFC playoffs picture. And John Gruden apologizes to the fans for losing in Oakland's final home game. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome and thank you for tuning in to episode number 15 of WTF Too, Women Talk Football Too. I'm Latasha Miles, a.k.a. Joe Madden, the Gridiron Goddess of SheESPN the Network, accompanied by my talented, dope, beautiful, and passionate fellow NFL fan. Let the folks know who you are.
What's up, good people? It's the one and only touchdown tomboy, also known as Shalika McCrimmon. I'm doing real good this week, man. There's a lot of good stuff happening around the NFL. Let's jump into it.
No doubt, indeed. We're going to go ahead and kick this thing off with the first quarter and go to our nation's capital, where if there isn't already enough drama going on there with the talks of possible impeachment, now we got Urban Meyer kicking it at Sunday's game, the Redskins game, on his I'm peaking man. Of course, there has been some speculation of Meyer joining the NFL coaching realm, possibly with Dallas, and also with the Redskins, and especially with his appearance at Sunday's game. Also, his former player from the Ohio State University, Dwayne Haskins, put up a decent game in his presence. So, touchdown tomboy, with Meyer being in attendance, what does this do regarding his future coaching in the NFL, whether it's with the Redskins, Cowboys, or elsewhere?
Well, this is the thing. Urban Meyer, you got to give it to him. The man is a legend. I mean, no matter how you shake that tree, the man is a good coach. He's always been a good coach. You know, he's won 187 games, and he's only lost 32 games. He's won 3 national titles, 7 conference titles. So he just has the numbers to match what he's doing. I just don't know if Urban Meyer is going to want to come to the NFL, and I'm not sure if he'll really want to unretire to coach the Redskins or the Cowboys, considering that I'm not sure that, number one, he's going to want to work under Dan Snyder, and then number 2, wanting to work under Jerry Jones. I mean, that's bad all the way around. Urban Meyer is an excellent coach. I'm just not sure that those franchises fit the type of person that he is. Although Urban Meyer does like a challenge, I'm just not sure that those two organizations will fit for him. But hey, you never know. He may or may not. That's my personal opinion on it. I don't know. I can't see him wanting to be under 2 really not so good franchises like that. Well, especially with the Cowboys, you know, because Jerry Jones likes to run the show. I just don't see Urban Meyer's wanting to be under that kind of regime. And then you know the history with Dan Snyder. I just don't quite see him trying to fit under that umbrella either. So I'm just not sure how I feel about it. But he was in attendance to the game. I don't know if it was really just because there's, you know, it's just speculation, or if he was there just to see Dwayne Haskins. I'm not sure. But I guess only time will tell. But I don't know. What's your take on the whole situation?
Well, I'm hoping that he was just there to show some support. I mean, I don't know if I think he'll be a good fit for the league. I mean, I get it. It's a sexy name. It's a famous coach. He's got a history of winning games. It's a storied franchise. Both of them are, as a matter of fact. And for him to reunite with Haskins, I mean, that all of that, the stars align. It sounds great. But let's be honest here. Urban Meyer comes from a college system where he's had more control, more say-so. He's dealing with a group of teenagers and young men under the age of 25. So it's a whole nother monster out there in the NFL having to deal with some egotistical men, their drama, them being veterans, and you being a new NFL coach. And that control factor is definitely out the door then, especially under a Dan Snyder and under a Jerry Jones. I mean, we're talking more like a little bit of a maybe a Kraft, Robert Kraft, or maybe even a Rooney that has like a little bit more some ground, a little bit more of a steady foundation, perhaps. But with these two guys, Snyder and Jones, it's a disaster waiting to happen under that ownership umbrella. And didn't he retire earlier from college because of health issues? So it's way worse in the NFL. When you're dealing with a more rigorous, nonstop schedule, that's definitely going to bring more unnecessary stress, more unnecessary tension. So I don't know about this one with Urban. And of course, if Meyer does look to take on the Redskins coaching situation, you know Jerry Jones is going to want to swoop in at the 11th hour and try to take him away from his division rival. And that will make Jones's day. Now, both Snyder and Jones have super duper long money, but Jerry might even just try to throw in a few extra dollars to season that plate a little bit more out there and try to sabotage the Redskins. So, I don't know. Just everything about it. It sounds very dramatic. And it won't be any, I see a lot more inconsistency, a lot more bumps and bruises before I see a smooth transition and pattern with this. So if Myers wants to join them on like some consulting type gig or just like some advice to Haskins throughout the process, I'm here for all of that. But head coaching, yeah, it's a no for me, dog, in my Randy Jackson voice from American Idol. Like, no, please don't. Remaining in the NFC, but moving on to the second quarter here, let's take a look at this ever-changing playoff picture, which has shifted once again. That's becoming the norm here. So hypothetically speaking, if the playoffs start today, it would be the Seahawks and the Packers with bye weeks as the respective number 1 and number 2 seeds. Now, the Saints are right there as well. They have like a 3-loss record, but they are the 3 seed, and they will be hosting the Vikings. And then the 7-7 Cowboys would be a 4 seed hosting the 11-3 49ers. Once again, the 7-7 Cowboys would be hosting the 11-3 49ers. Yes, with 4 more wins, the Cowboys will be hosting the game. The San Francisco 49ers will be coming to town. And of course, it will be based off of them winning that division. Now, I made a post asking, do fans really agree with this format? You know, that the division winner still gets to play host of a game. And a lot of fans, we got a lot of feedback from there, a lot of multiple and different answers. And of course, Touchdown Tomboy, I'm going to get your response in a moment, but just kind of want to give some of the interesting, broad perspectives and comments from some of the fans that we heard from. So we got Christian Mebin, who is actually down in Georgia. He brought up something very interesting as well, when him saying that he does not like this format. He thinks that it should be based off of records. Like winning a division, yes, you should get in the playoffs, but it shouldn't guarantee a home game. Then we got Maurice Robinson, who maybe his answer was a little bit biased because he is a Cowboys fan. He said that he thinks it's fine the way that it is and that it shouldn't change. If you win your division, you deserve a home playoff game, point blank, period. Then we got Joseph Howard up in New Jersey. He's actually a 49ers fan. He said division winners should only guarantee a playoff spot. The rest of the playoffs should be based off of records. You are what your record is. And if you win 7 to 8 games, you should be a 6 seed. Why reward them for being trash? So, again, a wide range of answers that we got there. But Touchdown Tomboy, what's your thought on this? Do you think the format should stay the same as it is? Should there be some shake-up changes? What's your thoughts?
I sat down and I thought about it, and I looked at this thing, right? And I heard you go down the numbers, and I actually sat down and I looked at what the seedings were. And it makes no sense that the Cowboys would be considered a 4 seed and the actual 49ers and the Vikings would be a lower seed than the Cowboys, who are 7-7. Like, that makes absolutely no sense to me at all. So it's kind of like, it's like you're saying, we can work hard all season And it does not matter when we get down to the end. As long as we win our division, and I feel like, yes, the division should matter, but it shouldn't carry that much weight. I feel like because the division is what the division is. You see what I'm saying? If you got a division like the NFC East is this year, you can basically win the NFC East with 8 wins. Every other division is pretty strong or pretty stacked. So you have to win at least 10 or 11 games. So I don't feel like that is fair to these other divisions, that because their divisions are much more competitive, that now they have to go on the road and host a team such as, or be hosted by a team such as the Cowboys, because the Cowboys won their division. Like, that makes no sense to me. I mean, he's right. I agree with the first fan that says it's basically like you're rewarding them for not being good. Like, that makes no sense to me. So I do think that they should revisit that and revisit how they do that, because to me, it's no way in this world that I can absolutely see that the Cowboys deserve to host either the 49ers or the Vikings, for that matter. That to me is just ludicrous. But hey, that's my thoughts on it. What are your thoughts about the whole thing?
I mean, personally, honestly, I just feel like the format should be the same. I mean, you win the playoffs. I mean, if you win your division, you get a playoff games and you get to host the game. So regardless of the record, the schedule, any of that, I feel like that's your reward for winning the division. You won your division. You host a playoff game. Somebody comes to you. I just kind of feel like that's inevitable. Like, what prize do you get from winning a division? Oh, okay, you get to go to the playoffs. You get to host the playoff. You get to host the game. So I don't think records should only come into play when it comes to deciding seeding like they already do. Now, if they don't like it, then win your division and crisis averted. So, like, for example, the 49ers, the fact that they have to travel to Dallas or Philly, which are both teams with worse records, you have nobody to blame but yourselves. You were just the number 1 seed last week. Hello. And then you dropped to who? The Falcons? And you did this at home? So that's your fault. So now this is your punishment that you have to deal with the consequences for that L. So yeah, you stick with it like this. Had you won, you would have retained that seed. You would have retained the bye week. You would have retained the lead in the division. But
so you can tell me that you absolutely believe that the Cowboys deserve to host a home game, as terrible as they are.
Only thing I'm saying is because they won their division. That's an isolated situation. That's not the 40. None of that is the 40. The 49ers could control what the part that the 49ers could control. They should have beat Atlanta the other day. That's not the Cowboys' fault that the rest of the division. I mean, that has nothing to do with the 49ers, how the rest of that division is. All the 49ers can control is the NFC West.
Well, now let's be clear. The 49ers have been, that the Atlanta Falcons have been playing like trash, but they should have always been at the top of their division. The Atlanta Falcons, let's be clear, they played like trash pretty much the whole year, but they've always had the personnel that they could compete.
But all the 49ers had to do yesterday, even with Seattle beating Carolina, all the 49ers had to do was win. That means they control their own fate. So this is not Dallas's fault. This is not Philly's fault. This is 49ers' fault. Had they won, they would have still been a 1 seed, but instead they lost, so they dropped to a 5 seed. That has nothing to do with Dallas. That has nothing to do with the NFC East. Win your division, crisis averted. You don't have to worry about any of this. That is the reward for winning your division. You get to host a playoff game but as a result of winning your division. So right now, San Fran does not have the division lead, so therefore they don't get that advantage.
Well, I'm going to have to agree to disagree with you on this one. I guess maybe it's because the Cowboys record is so bad this year and the Eagles records are so bad this year that I just feel like it's not even fair. And the NFC is so stacked this year with the exception of the NFC East. And I just feel like it's so unfair that we're going to take a team that's 7 and say, oh, you guys are good enough to host the game. And maybe if the records were different, I think it would be a different story. But because the records are so poor, then I think that's where the problem is coming in. And I think if it was a different record and they were more competitive than they are, then maybe I could see your perspective.
But it has nothing to do with me saying that because they're weak or strong. That is just the reward for them winning their division. So whether you're undefeated in your, I remember that the Giants went 9-7, and they actually won the Super Bowl that year.
Yeah, I remember.
And the Cardinals, I think the Cardinals were 7-9 the year that they lost to the Steelers in the Super Bowl. So, you know, we all know once the playoffs start, that's a whole nother season within itself anyway. Look at New England. They went 16-0, lost the Super Bowl. So the playoffs is a whole nother monster. But again, that's just the reward for winning the division. And it's numbers and records and stuff are out of the window. But if they have issues with it, like I said, with Joseph being a 49ers fan, I'm not saying there's no validity to what he's saying. But at the end of the day, win your division, you don't have to worry about any of this.
Alrighty then.
But it's on you now. It's the perfect time to go ahead and take a break here at halftime and go ahead and give us your presentation. What you got for us this week?
All right, so I took a break from the norm, and I thought that I'd throw out some history of the NFL because I just kind of like to understand like the background and where it all came from, how it all started. And so I really did a little bit of research to look up some interesting facts, I think, about the NFL. And so it just makes our fan base a little bit more knowledgeable about the history of how it all started, where it came from. So the NFL started in 1920. The NFL started in 1920, which is why we're celebrating our 100th season. This year makes perfect sense. And it was originally called the American Professional Football Association. They had only 10 teams that started out with them. None of those teams still exist in the NFL today. They had 10 teams that started out with them, and none of those teams are existing today, okay? The Green Bay Packers joined in 1921, and they are the oldest and longest-running franchise. In 1922, they changed the name to the NFL, which is the National Football League, and in 1970, they joined forces with the American Football League, which is the AFL, and they merged with the NFL. And they did this simply because what was happening is that they were competing for players. So if a player couldn't make it in the NFL, they'd go to the AFL, or if they felt like the AFL was better, so they were just flip-flopping players. And so eventually in 1970, the NFL and the AFL merged, okay? Now, some other interesting stuff about the NFLs is that the NFL didn't require people to wear they did not require players to wear helmets until 1943. That right there was like, what? Mm-hmm. Like, this was crazy, right? And the Bears had 6 tie games in 1932. 6 tie games, okay? Wow. All right? Now, another interesting fact is that a 30-second commercial in 2011 was averaging $3 million in a Super Bowl.
That's ridiculous. Right.
And over 100 million people watch the Super Bowl each year. That's still consistent today. More than 100 million people watch the Super Bowl each year, and they eat around 14,500 tons of chips. So that was some interesting stuff for the NFL. Just a little bit of history, some interesting facts there. I thought that would be a nice swing just to kind of break down, just to give us something different today. And I thought there would be some interesting things to share. At least I found them interesting. But it's back to you, baby.
Wow, that is the amount of, that's just chips. Dang, I didn't even think it was that many chips that existed. That's what they do just on Super Bowl night. Good Lord, That's a lot of chips. Oh, man, that's crazy. Wow. Interesting, and indeed, thank you as always for the insight and that knowledge. So we're going to pick this thing right back up here with the third quarter. Now, some of the divisions have already been decided. We've been making our divisional predictions throughout the season on the show. And here we are at the most dysfunctional, most unpredictable of them all, the NFC East, where there's a major showdown this Sunday. And this will pretty much seal the fate of who wins the division, who gets in the playoffs, and who, as we just talked about, gets to host that playoff game, being a 4 seed having one of the more powerhouse teams come and visit them. So we're going to see how that goes. But we also discussed the upcoming games in the fourth quarter of the show. But this one right here, this one hits a little bit different. So here we go. Touchdown Tomboy. On Sunday, we have the Philadelphia Eagles playing host to the current division leaders by half a game, the Dallas Cowboys, and this ultimately should decide who wins the division. So touchdown Tomboy, who wins the NFC least?
I don't know. If the Cowboys play like they played Sunday, I definitely say the Cowboys. But the Cowboys aren't known to go on the road and play well. But the Eagles haven't been playing well either. So I'm going to give the edge to the Eagles this week simply because they're playing at home. But I wouldn't be surprised either way because the Eagles have had a lot of injuries this year. They don't have a deep ball threat. The Cowboys do tend to have a better defense when they come to show up to play. So I can see it going either way, but just because the Eagles are at home and they don't have to travel half the country for a game, I'm going to give the edge to the Eagles.
Gotcha. It's crazy that you say that because before even knowing that you were going to say that, I honestly feel the exact same way. I have no idea who to pick in this game. And the thing is, like, I was trying to think, well, let's see, are the Eagles undefeated at home or are the Cowboys how they do on the road? Can't even use that. Like, the Eagles lost to the Patriots at home. They lost to the Lions at home. My goodness. They lost in Atlanta I think that's how Atlanta got their first win actually was against Philly. So I just had nothing to kind of base that off to kind of give them any type of leverage when it comes to that. Then the Cowboys, they have won games on the road. So it was like really, really hard to determine this one. A lot of confusion going on with this game now. I low-key want Dallas to lose so that this may perhaps help get the long overdue Jason Garrett up out of here. Not saying I don't want anybody to lose their job, but he just does not fit them. They need a different coach. So then I also kind of wanted Philly to lose because I need them to understand and get out of denial and see that they still need Nick Foles. Now, Nick Foles needs them too, but I'm just now that trustworthy on Carson Wentz, especially with injuries and consistency. Nick Foles was that dude, and we probably wouldn't even be having this discussion here going into Week 16. So they both had some unbelievable losses, and it's not possible to even foresee a tie out of this game, considering the stakes. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas wins this game, but for no other reason than the desire and them playing at home, I agree with you, and I do want Philly to win. So that's like the biggest game slated on the schedule here for Week 16. Gosh, this season went by so fast. So, yeah, that's like the biggest game on the schedule for Week 16. But an interesting spin here this week. We got 3 Saturday games, kind of like I did with Thanksgiving as we go here to the fourth quarter. Looking at the upcoming games, giving our thoughts and predictions. So, yeah, Thursday, we got back-to-back slate of games at 1 o'clock, 4:30, and 8:15. Houston at Tampa, Buffalo at New England, LA at San Francisco. So, obviously, the Saturday games should be pretty big. Also, this Sunday night and this Monday night coming into Week 16. These are the last Sunday night and Monday night games for the season. So Week 17 will just be 1 o'clock games and like 4 and 4:25 games. No primetime games next Sunday or next Monday. So we got to savor these games here, these primetime games this Sunday and this Monday. You got Green Bay at Minnesota on Monday. That's a big divisional game. Kansas City at Chicago, which there's really not super duper many playoff implications. Kansas City, of course, is still fighting for like a 2 seed in a bye week, because, they have that tiebreaker edge over New England. So, if New England slips kind of thing, they can kind of slide their way in. So, there's a little bit of implications there, but nothing super major. Touchdown Tomboy, is there anything that you're eyeballing other than the Philly and Cowboys game that we talked about, but anything in Week 16 you're really looking at?
Yeah, the Bills and the Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
That should be a good game. Definitely a good game. I actually think that the Bills, I don't know, they're going to Foxborough, I think. So they probably won't win there. But that should be a good game. And, of course, the Vikings and the Packers. That's Monday Night Football. So that one should be great because, right now the Packers are the number 1 seed. And, of course, the Vikings want to move up. Or the Vikings trying to get a little bit more going on. So, yeah, that's going to be a huge game with huge implications as well. So that's what I'm looking at. Those are the two major games that I'm looking at, of
Those are
course.
the two major ones. Yeah, and I agree with you with that Buffalo New England, because Buffalo still has a chance to win the division. And I remember we talked about this earlier this year, that even though New England did beat Buffalo in Buffalo, that was the game that Josh Allen was rolling and it was really close, and then he got hurt. So, he might be seeking a little bit of revenge on that, still having that bitter taste in his mouth. And again, the stakes being so high, Buffalo having a potential, they already locked up a playoff spot because they beat my boys on Sunday night, but they have a potential chance of winning the division. So that could be colossal for Buffalo with these last two games. So yeah, if they could pull out that win against New England in Foxborough, which New England has been extremely vulnerable in Foxborough these past. Cam has beat them in Foxborough. Kansas City just did it a couple of weeks ago. So it's not impossible, but it is a very, very tall task at hand for this Buffalo team, who is back in the playoffs. For this is like their second time in the playoffs since 1999, I believe. Third time since 99, 2017, and then 2019. So yeah, that could really shake some things up.
And one more trap game that's going on too between the Texans and the Buccaneers.
Yeah,
That's the trap game.
yeah, that's a trap game. Shoot, why you talking about trap games? Arizona, Seattle better be careful of playing Arizona, because that's a divisional games, and those usually always are very, very interesting. Because the next week Seattle plays San Fran, essentially for the first place in the NFC West too. So Seattle better watch out for Arizona coming to town too, and not overlook them, because I honestly think that's what happened to San Fran. I think they got to looking ahead and got caught up. They got a divisional game against LA this week. I think they got a little caught up, and Atlanta caught them slipping. So, who knows? Tennessee's got some huge implications here. My Steelers losing. Actually, even though Tennessee lost to Houston, my Steelers losing helps Tennessee, even though Steelers are in the playoffs at the moment, because if Tennessee wins their last two and the Steelers win their last two, Tennessee actually is the one that would get in with that same record because of strength of schedule. Because Tennessee plays New Orleans and they play Houston, whereas the Steelers play Baltimore and the Jets. So that's something to look forward to. Tennessee's at home. They play New Orleans coming off of a short week, a record-breaking week for Drew Brees. So I don't know, his arm might be a little tired after throwing him 540 or so yards. So I don't know. So Tennessee, that one's probably one to eyeball too. Cincinnati and Miami playing essentially for the first pick in the NFL draft. It seems like, if Cincinnati wins, they would still have the number one pick. But it gets interesting because they would be only one game behind Miami then. We already talked about Dallas at Philly. Yeah, the Arizona and Seattle, be careful of that trap game. And again, Kansas City, Chicago, last Sunday night primetime game. Chicago was already eliminated because Minnesota won. But still, Kansas City is still trying to play for it. They're playing for a bye week. And, Green Bay at Minnesota. Green Bay, one of those four-headed monster NFC powerhouse with there's four NFC teams with 11-3 records. And so, Green Bay, one of those teams. So that should be an interesting divisional matchup too. Green Bay trying to retain their bye week and their high seeding as well. So lots of interesting games coming up on deck. And your boys, Carolina goes to Indy, and Will Grier will get his first start. That's something to keep an eye on too, as Carolina's going through an evaluation process and kind of trying to get a feel of things and see how things are going. So Will Grier, first career start as he's making it in Indy, who'll be coming off of a short week as well after playing Monday night and going back home. So, do you have any thoughts or excitement, anticipation about that?
Interested in seeing what he's going to do because, of course, he kind of stunk up the place in preseason. So I think they're really just trying to see if he's progressing at all. That'll be what I think they're looking at. Is he really worth the third round pick, or do we just need to say goodbye and start all the way over? Another interesting point is that Cam Newton was at the game Sunday. Yep. Put my fingers together about that one.
You said what about you doing what?
I said I have to put my fingers together about that one because that's I just think it's interesting that they were about to ship him off, and now all of a sudden he's nominated the Walter Payton Man of the Year, and all of a sudden they're riding that horse again. He's gotten that foot surgery, and ready to start singing his praises again. So that's gonna be interesting come this fall.
Well, yeah. I actually was told a few weeks ago that I had like that if Rivera doesn't make it to the playoffs, he was gonna get fired. So that's already happened. And that if Rivera gets fired, it's more likely that Cam would come back as long as he's healthy. Like Tepper wants a healthy Cam Newton and wants to retain him and keep him. That surgery is supposed to keep Cam sidelined until, like, he's not supposed to be healthy all the way until March, which is kind of good because that's when the combine is happening around that time, and then the draft will be coming the next month. So if they could kind of get some type of status on Cam by then, and if there's a trace of him being pretty much healthy, then my sources are telling me that Cam is the keeper, that they're not trading him. He still got another year in his contract, and that Tepper wants to see him in action and wants to see him healthy because, Tepper really hasn't gotten a full chance to see a healthy Cam, and hasn't really been able to fully evaluate him. So that's just what I've been told, like, that Tepper wants Cam to stay. And so, I mean, I didn't hear this from Tepper himself, but like I said, just a pretty good source and saying it. So, I don't know. Maybe Cam will get to stick around. We will see.
We will definitely see.
That's very interesting. Yeah, and some other notes there in overtime. We just mentioned Will Grier getting his first career start in the NFL this Sunday in Indy. And Janoris Jenkins picked up by the Saints off the waivers after the Giants released him. Of course, he had some issues with being consistent, and then the Twitter rant with dropping the R word on a fan, and of course, you can't do anything on social media without it being seen. So, yeah, interesting there. Terrell Suggs, of course, had much desires to return back to Baltimore after Arizona deleted him. After Arizona released him on Friday, and he was picked up by the Chiefs, but we don't know. He might be a little bit stubborn. We don't know if he's going to report or whatever the case may be, but the Chiefs did claim him off the waivers, much to the chagrin of him wanting to go to Baltimore. And not much of a surprise here. I'm kind of disappointed because I really wanted Josh Gordon to do well.
Me too.
Yeah, but
I was like, come on.
Yeah, suspended once again, and this time indefinitely, his fifth suspension since coming to since 2013. I think that's when he entered the league too. And then I kind of was like, it felt like Josh Gordon to Seattle, there was already a lethal combination. Like that wasn't a good sign. But I was like, you know what? He playing with Russell. He'll be all right. This is a Super Bowl winning team. He's playing with Pete Carroll, a Super Bowl winning coach. I kind of thought, like, you can't go from much of a... You already had this great situation in New England, and you don't go... It wasn't like he went from sugar to crap by going to Seattle. I was like, oh, he still got another really, really good situation. I just didn't think that he would not take advantage of.
But I think that situation in New England hurt him because even he tweeted about it that he didn't know why they were doing it. Like, nobody had told him, well, this is why we're doing it. But honestly, that actually has come back to shoot New England in the foot because now they're struggling offensively. Mm-hmm. And so it didn't make much sense because New England let him go and he was perfectly healthy. So, I mean, he had a little hiccup in the game, and then they went and let him go. And I'm like, well, what was the point of that? And he didn't even know why they did it. And I think that was where he really wanted to be. And so the fact that they let him go, yeah, he went over to Seattle, but his heart was really in New England, I think. Yeah. And so because that didn't work out, he was just like, oh, screw the whole thing.
But that's a good point, though. But do you think maybe, because if you think about it, when was that, about 3 or 4 weeks ago that New England released him? Well, it was before the trade deadline because they went and got Sanu. But did you maybe think that they were kind of thinking that this was a foreshadowing of Josh Gordon's probably going to get suspended again, or...
I don't think so. I'm not sure why they did it, but I don't think so because I think that, honestly, he was really going to try to stay healthy in New England. And up until that point, he had been doing pretty decent. I think New England was a place he really wanted to be, and he wanted to continue to play with Tom Brady. And you got to also remember, like, they have placed Josh Gordon in the lineup in Seattle, but he wasn't the main guy. Mm-hmm. But what was happening in New England, Tom Brady was starting to make him his main guy. Right. So, and it wasn't the same connection. And so he was starting to become he was the main guy in New England, really, because, Julian Edelman was he was getting all the double teams, and so Josh Gordon is such a big target that he was becoming Tom Brady's main guy, especially clutch.
Right.
So we were seeing that in games, and then they shipped him off to Seattle, where Seattle has DK Metcalf, who's doing well in his own right. Then they have Tyler Lockett, and so I just think they had, and then they had Carson, and then Penny, and all those guys out of the backfield, and I think they just had too many other pieces, and he just didn't fit into that umbrella. And now with Hollister playing well, they had a good tight end situation versus New England. All they had was James White, Julian Edelman, and Gordon. So to me, that fit better. And I think he was doing much better in New England. And I think this was just like, he wasn't really getting the touches that he was looking forward to. And I think he was just like, oh, whatever.
Wow. That's deep. I didn't think of it like that. I hate it for him, and the sad thing is this might actually be the end of Josh Gordon in the NFL after all these chances.
Yeah. Such an amazing talent.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Amazing and disappointing both at the same time, and very unfortunate, but hope everything goes well from him for wherever he goes. If it's another chance in the NFL, if it's projects away from the NFL, definitely wish him the best though. No, nothing bad to say. I'm just disappointed and surprised because I wanted to go another way. I think that's what it is. I just wanted it to be different, and it wasn't. I think it's probably where my heartbreak comes in on that.
But see, at least from what I was told, the last couple of times it wasn't PEDs. It was like marijuana.
Yeah.
So this time it was PEDs. So maybe, because maybe they'll give him another chance because it was a different substance. Maybe. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll definitely see. Yeah. Gosh, I hate that for him. But nonetheless, we'll see how it goes for Josh Gordon down the line, and how it goes for these this Week 16 schedule, and some more playoff picture developments should be coming into play with these last 2 weeks in the regular season that really, really zoomed by and went by. Touchdown Tomboy, anything on mine? I know your sister just got married this weekend, so good stuff going on in your family this weekend.
Yep. My sister just got married, tied the knot. And coming up on Christmas, just really trying to relax this Christmas because we've been so busy. That's really it. That's it.
Well, congratulations in order, definitely, to your sister, and yeah, hopefully you'll be able to get some R&R and some relaxation and rest in over the holiday, because honestly I know that's kind of like what I have been thinking. Like, I'm just glad to be off more so than the holiday, and these football games on. I'm loving the 3 back-to-back NFL games that are coming up on Saturday. Kind of reminds me of Thanksgiving, so yeah, that's definitely gonna be dope as well. So that's going to conclude this episode of WTF 2 Women Talk Football 2. We just wrapped up week 15 as we're heading into week 16. 2 more weeks left for the regular season of the NFL. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. Thanks again so much to the guys, everybody with their feedback and participation. Some great insight and commentating there from you guys. We really appreciate it. Please make sure you continue to follow us on all social media platforms. And again, we appreciate the feedback, the constructive criticism, the liking, loving, commenting, feedback, but most of all, hoping that you all enjoy what we're presenting to you from WTF2. So we're getting closer to Christmas too, in case we don't hear from or get to everybody by the next week, which is the actual week of Christmas. An early Merry Christmas to you all. Again, we greatly appreciate it. And this is going to do it for this week of WTF2 Women Talk Football 2, and we're out.